Every breed has an image, a picture of the ideal dog, an image that teaches breeders, judges, and newcomers what the breed should look like. But here's an important question. Could focusing on a single ideal unintentionally reduce the genetic diversity of our breeds? This episode asks whether modern breeding practices, including illustrated standards and breeding approval systems, may contribute to the same unintended consequence, narrowing the breeding population too much. These are images from modern illustrated breed standards from various purebred dog breeds. They can be valuable educational tools intended to help judges and breeders visualize the written standard. But they may also create something psychologists call an anchor, a mental reference point that influences future decisions. So it is reasonable to ask, can a single illustrated ideal unintentionally narrow our perception of breed type? For more than half a century, conservation genetics has documented the predictable consequences of narrowing a gene pool. When relatively few individuals contribute to the next generation, effective population size declines, rare genetic variants disappear, inbreeding accumulates more rapidly, harmful recessive variants become more likely to pair together. Entire maternal and paternal lineages can disappear forever. These principles have been demonstrated repeatedly in wildlife conservation and livestock breeding, as well as in dogs. The science is clear. The more narrowly we select, the more genetic variation we leave behind. It is perhaps not surprising, then, that illustrated standards depicting a single ideal dog can encourage a narrower interpretation of breed type than the written standard itself requires. Around the world, breeding programs use a variety of criteria to determine which dogs should reproduce, including health testing, working ability, temperament, conformation, and breed type. Some of these criteria are relatively objective, others are much more subjective. These requirements can certainly improve the quality of breeding animals. But every additional filter also reduces the number of dogs contributing to the next generation. At some point, we have to ask whether selection has become too restrictive. Are we excluding dogs because they truly lack health, function, sound temperament, or essential breed characteristics? Or because they fall outside a narrow, subjective image of what the ideal dog should look like? And perhaps most importantly, is that image being shaped by the breed's original purpose and written standard, or by the fashions and preferences of the present day? Consider the Siberian Husky. This breed represents one of the world's oldest continuous dog lineages, tracing its origins to endurance sled dogs of northeastern Siberia more than 12,000 years ago. Although the exact number of breed founders will probably never be known, many dozens of Siberian sled dogs were imported to Alaska during the early 20th century to compete in long-distance sled races. But only a fraction of those dogs ultimately shaped the registered breed we know today. Here, we see several of the important male founders of the breed from the early 20th century. Now, fast forward 100 years to present day. The Siberian Husky still exists, but some of its founder history does not. Pedigree records show that every living purebred Siberian Husky traces its direct male line, the unbroken chain from father to son, back to just 3 foundation sires, Smoky, Circo, and Togo. No known male-tail pedigree survives from any other founder, and the genomic data tell the same story. Across thousands of sampled purebred Siberian Huskies, only 3 founder-derived Y chromosome haplotypes remain. Other important foundation dogs, including Krivanka, Fritz, and Duke, still appear elsewhere in modern pedigrees. Their genetic contributions have not vanished completely, but their direct father-to-son lines have. Because the Y chromosome passes from sire to son, once the final male in one of those lineages failed to produce a breeding son, that paternal lineage ended forever. And that's just one easy-to-see example of the founder diversity that has been lost. This leads to another difficult question. If the original foundation dogs were alive today, would they even be welcomed into the modern breeding population based on a modern interpretation of the breed standard? Consider Togo, one of the greatest sled dogs in history, and recognized by Time magazine as one of history's most heroic animals. Togo was the ultimate sled dog. His value was measured by his stamina, intelligence, soundness, and ability to perform. But under a modern interpretation of the breed standard, would a dog like Togo still be valued? What about Krivanka? For many all-breed judges, the answer may well be no. not because these dogs lacked correct breed characteristics, but because the mental image of a correct Siberian has become anchored to a much narrower visual ideal. When that reference point is shaped by a single illustrated image rather than the full range of historically correct variation within the breed, legitimate type can begin to look incorrect simply because it is less familiar. That question becomes even more important when confirmation evaluations determine whether a dog may be approved for breeding, as occurs in some European breeding systems. Our interpretation of many breeds has become anchored to a single image in a modern document rather than to the broader range of healthy, functional dogs that created the breed. An illustrated standard should help us understand a breed. It should not become such a rigid template that valuable working and other correct dogs, and the irreplaceable genetic lineages they carry, are excluded from its future simply because they don't fit the narrow modern-day ideal of what the breed should look like. Conservation genetics reminds us that every time a healthy, functional dog is removed from the breeding population, we may also lose genetic variation that can never be recovered. And for working breeds especially, the loss may be even greater. We may lose generations of selection for endurance, instinct, work ethic, mental toughness, and the intangible qualities that make a dog exceptional at the job it was originally bred to perform. Those traits are maintained only if breeders continue to select dogs that can actually perform the work. Remove that selection pressure, and those qualities will gradually disappear. Of course, none of this means that standards are not important. They absolutely are. Selection is what transforms dogs into a recognizable breed. The question is, how narrow should that selection be? Perhaps the future of breed preservation is not breeding toward a single ideal. Perhaps it is recognizing that many excellent dogs can express breed type in different ways, while still preserving the health, structure, temperament, and working ability that define the breed. Imagine an illustrated standard that shows not one perfect dog, but many equally correct examples, different head types, different expressions, different proportions, all meeting the written standard. Now imagine breeding strategies that deliberately keep underrepresented maternal families, paternal lineages, and working populations in play alongside successful show lines. Instead of asking only, is this dog good enough to breed? Perhaps we should also ask, what valuable genetic diversity disappears if this dog never contributes? Conservation genetics teaches us that healthy populations are not built around one perfect image. They are built by many outstanding, distantly related individuals contributing together. Selection for excellence and preservation of diversity are not opposing goals. The future of our breeds depends on achieving both. If this conversation matters to you, subscribe to the channel and join us as we explore how conservation genetics can help preserve purebred dogs for generations to come.